first of all, this is just a limited set of actions that account for some degree of variation. They're not the only things that you can do from any of these positions. Does that make sense? There's other things that you can do. There's other techniques that work. There's other techniques that account for different types of variation that we haven't really talked through. But also there's a bunch of techniques where there's overlap. Here's a question about building a system, right? So we talked from the beginning of this class about I want to limit myself to behaviors that I understand account for variation in the fight to some degree, right? I know what variation they account for, and I'm limiting myself to their application in those use cases, right? Make sense? So the very first thing that I want to say is when you pick something, when you pick the first thing that you're going to do, your go-to move, the first technique, the first posture you're going to walk in to the Zufechten in. Should that posture account for a lot of variation, or should it account for edge cases?
A lot.
Right? Like, why would you want to pick a posture that you only know how to do one particular technique that only works against one particular thing that they're going to do? Okay, if you all right. Well, no, that's a good answer. That's a good answer. If you either have read your opponent or assessed them somehow, or maybe studied film on them, and you know what their proclivities are, then yeah, sure, go to the edge case because there's a reliability there. Like, I'm not just guessing that he's going to do this thing. I'm expecting that he will based on evidence that I've seen that suggests that he will. Right? Does that make sense? But if I'm just walking into an exchange cold, I've never seen the guy before ever, then I'm probably going to pick the most conservative posture and the most conservative opening action, whether it be a vor action or a knock action, that accounts for the most variation. Does that make sense? Incidentally, cutting off at the shoulder in either an offensive or a defensive way account for the vast majority of variation that you're going to encounter in an exchange. Incidentally, those are the first two techniques that the books tell us to learn. Right? Cutting a straight right off of the shoulder towards their sword or towards their body, right? And then this is what you can expect them to do, and here's some ways of mitigating that. Right? That's like the book, first chapter. Before the first chapter, they tell you that. Okay, so we want to pick things that account for the most variation. Now, we want to do things that unilaterally advance our position. What the hell does that mean? Lucas, what does it mean?
You want to increment your advantage until you're inside them.
Right, so I want to create a greater and greater advantage. What is the unilateral part?
Only you are gaining the advantage.
Well, and yes, regardless of what they do. Does that make sense? I want to do things that enhance my advantage regardless of how they respond to me. I always hear people say, oh, I'm trying to bait him. Stop doing that shit. Don't try and bait him, okay? Because what does that require?
A specific response.
Yeah, it requires that they fall for the bait, right? And that doesn't get you any further advantage. There are times where it's appropriate to bait them, but that's not what we're talking about, right? Generally speaking, I want to do things that create dilemmas, right? If I'm here and he gives me an open line, weak point maybe, or whatever, I say, oh, I'm going to thrust. Boom. So what's his dilemma?
You got to address the thrust.
He got to address the thrust. How can he address it? He'd come to plow. And if he came to that plow, what do I do? Do it. What do? I slice. Sorry.
No, you're good. I'm just joking.
Right? What if he came to a different plow? Yeah, do it again. Wait for me. Right?
Maybe that was quick. So did you
I
just So you just get his sword and you just kind of pull it back and put it back in there? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I worked in as his plow taker.